6:30 a.m., red and blue lights flashing outside my house. The HOA president was yelling for the tow truck to haul my vehicle off my own damn driveway. She didn't realize I spent 15 years investigating public corruption for the federal government. And this time, the corruption lived right across the street wearing pearls and perfume that smelled like control. My name's Ethan Cole. I'd just retired from federal service, bought a small place in Maple Creek Estates outside Phoenix. After 2 decades of chasing fraud and laundering cases, I wanted peace, morning coffee on the porch, the sound of my dog Ranger's nails clicking on the deck. No meetings, no memos, no lies. For about 8 weeks, I actually had it, until Linda Parker showed up with her clipboard and a smile you could cut glass with. She was the HOA president, 55 tall, hair-short patients. The kind of woman who looked at you like she was already writing a report about you. 3 days after I moved in, she knocked on my door holding a welcome packet, highlighted in neon yellow. No vehicles over 5,000 pounds may be parked in driveways. My Ford F-150 weighs 6,200. Just a friendly reminder, she said, voice syrupy sweet. We like to keep the neighborhood tidy. I nodded, thanked her, closed the door. My wife Laura was watching from the kitchen window. That woman's going to be a problem, she said. She was right. The first warning letter came a week later. Official HOA stationery, $200 fine. I sent back an email quoting county code showing that our HOA was voluntary, no enforcement authority, polite, factual, clean. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. A month later, I came home from the grocery store to find a note taped to my truck. Move this eyesore, or we'll move it for you. Signed only with HOA. I called the number listed on the HOA website. Linda answered, of course. Her tone was all business, clipped, professional, until I asked if she'd taped the note. Then she said, "Some people don't understand community standards, Mr. Cole. Maybe the rules will make more sense once you've lived here longer." Then she hung up. The next morning, a county inspector showed up asking if I'd done any unpermitted grading on my property. I hadn't even unpacked my tools yet. He looked around, shrugged, and said, "This is the 3rd bogus complaint I've gotten on this street in 2 weeks." That's when I knew she wasn't just annoying, she was dangerous. Still, I tried to let it go. I wanted quiet. I'd seen enough petty tyrants behind badges and titles to know they burn themselves out eventually. But then Laura came home from a night shift, eyes red. Someone had called her hospital claiming she'd shown up drunk on duty, described her car, her shift time, everything. The hospital tested her, cleared her immediately, but humiliation like that leaves a mark. She dropped her bag on the counter, trembling. "She went after my job, Ethan. That woman called my hospital." I felt my jaw lock the way it used to before interrogations, cold, mechanical. "All right," I said quietly. "We do this by the book." I reached out to Janet Hughes, a friend from my bureau days, now a nonprofit attorney. She laughed when I told her the story, but then she said, if that HOA's registered as a nonprofit, you can request their financial records. Public disclosure laws, $50 and 2 weeks. I filed the request that afternoon. Meanwhile, I started documenting everything, dates, photos, emails. Even the tire marks she'd claimed were evidence of industrial activity. Every detail went into a folder on my desk labeled Linda. But the longer I waited, the worse it got. Someone keyed my truck. My mailbox was stuffed with flyers for community beautification, all circled in red marker. One morning, a Facebook page popped up called Concerned Maple Resident, accusing me of being an aggressive ex-federal agent surveilling neighbors. No names, but everyone knew who it meant. Laura found me staring at the screen and said softly, "We could move. Start over." And for a moment, I almost agreed. Maybe I was bringing the fight home. Maybe peace just isn't something men like me get to have. That night, I sat on the porch watching the sun set behind the palms. Ranger snoring at my feet, and I asked myself the same question I'd asked in every messy case. If not me, who? Someone like Linda doesn't stop because you leave. She just finds another target. And I wasn't built to run. 10 days later, the envelope arrived, HOA financials, 18 months worth. cheap copy paper, coffee stains, sloppy entries like MISC. Admin $2 $700 and consulting fees $1 $800. I scanned line by line until one jumped out. Legal review $4,500, Parker & Associates LLC, her husband's law firm. My pulse slowed the way it does when everything suddenly clicks into place. Self-dealing, classic, illegal under state nonprofit law. I showed Laura. She stared at the page, jaw tight. She used our dues to pay her own husband. I nodded, and that I said is how we end this. I started quietly. Met with a few neighbors, Tony Nguyen, an engineer 2 doors down, Mrs. Ramirez, who'd gotten 3 noise complaints even though she worked nights, and George, a retired Marine, whose flagpole Linda had tried to remove for aesthetic inconsistency. Every one of them had a story. I spread the records out on my kitchen table, explained what I'd found, and we built a plan like an operation. Petition for a special meeting, 25% signatures required. We got 34%. Everything documented, notarized, filed. No emotion, just procedure. The day before the meeting, I woke up to the hiss of air. My truck was sitting low, 4 slashed tires, clean cuts, sidewalls shredded, $800 worth of damage. My security camera caught a figure in a hoodie moving quick, careful to keep their face hidden. Same height, same build as Linda. I filed a report with the sheriff. Deputy Riley, young guy, looked at the footage, sighed. "You need more to press charges, sir, but keep logging this. She's losing it." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk building a dossier, every letter, every threat, every receipt. By dawn, it was 3 inches thick. I printed copies for every household. Thursday, 7 p.m., community center. Packed room, folding chairs, burnt coffee smell whispers. Linda was already up front, hair-perfect blazer, crisp stacks of glossy folders in front of her. She looked like a senator about to give a press conference. Her husband sat beside her, pretending to check emails. I walked in carrying a cardboard box full of dossiers and nodded to Deputy Riley, standing quietly in the back. I'd requested his presence for security, I'd said. He knew why he was really there. Dale, the HOA vice president, opened the meeting in a nervous monotone. This special session has been called to address concerns regarding board governance and community compliance. Linda smiled like she'd already won. When he gave her the floor, she launched into a speech about thankless service and protecting property values from non-conforming elements. I let her talk for 5 straight minutes, then stood up. "My name is Ethan Cole," I said, voice steady, federal investigator, retired. "And for 6 months my family has been harassed under the pretense of community standards." I walked to the front, opened the box, and started handing out dossiers. These are copies of the HOA's own records, emails, expenditures, and financial transactions. The room rustled as pages flipped. You'll see nearly $9,200 in undocumented expenses, including payments to a firm owned by the president's husband. No disclosure vote, no board approval. That's embezzlement, folks. Dressed up as landscaping. Linda shot to her feet. "This is slander," she snapped. "You have no right." But her husband's hand landed on her arm. "Linda," he whispered, "stop talking." I clicked a remote, and a slide lit up the wall behind me. The payment entry highlighted in yellow, followed by a copy of her signature. Then another slide, photos of my slashed tires, the anonymous Facebook post, timestamps matching her late-night logins from the HOA email account. The room went dead silent. You could hear the fluorescent lights buzzing. Then Tony stood up from the middle row. "You called the cops on me last month for my kid's basketball hoop," he said. "You said it was an eyesore, too." Someone else shouted, "You fined me for hanging Christmas lights." A dozen voices at once, anger spilling over years of fear. Linda's face drained of color. I turned to Dale. "Per bylaw Section 8, subsection C, I move for an immediate recall of the current board." A woman in the back, Mrs. Ramirez, raised her hand. I seconded. Dale's hands shook as he called for the vote. All in favor of removal. Every hand went up except 2, Linda's and her husband's. She grabbed her folder, muttering something about lawyers and defamation, and stormed toward the door. The metal slammed shut behind her, echoing like a gavel strike. Deputy Riley stepped aside, phone in hand, murmuring to someone on the other end, State Nonprofit Division. The timing was perfect. That's where the story ends for me. Linda lost her position that night. The board dissolved within a week. She's under investigation for misappropriating funds. I haven't seen her since, though. Sometimes I catch a whiff of her perfume on the wind and wonder if she's standing somewhere else now, clipboard in hand, looking for another neighborhood to conquer. But here's what I learned. Power only works if you let it scare you. The moment you stand up, document, and call it by its real name, it crumbles. Quiet persistence beats loud authority every single time.